Okay. I think you're kind of a badass, which is funny because you weren't a badass growing up, but you're sort of a badass, which is like really interesting to have seen happen. Yeah, like you're definitely like sort of like a badass chick, which is really cool. You seem really like flexible and like easygoing about stuff, and like able to kind of roll with the punches, which is really like that's a good quality. And it's like especially considering you're into stuff that's sort of fussy, like you're into crafts, which is sort of like a fussy thing. It's really neat that like you're kind of like this like yeah, you're sort of a badass, which is really neat. And it's like it makes me feel safe. I like having badasses in my corner. So I think that's really cool. And yeah, I think you are definitely somebody who's like super hardworking. I think it's funny that like there's this like weird perception people have that people in Montreal don't work or something like that, or like everybody's this bohemian who's just sort of like sitting around drinking lattes all day. But I think the only people who think that way are students, whose like parents pay rent for them or something, because we're just or whatever, are living off of a student loan because it seems like people who actually live here are working their ass off all the time, but just having like they know how to have a good time also, which is really nice. Which is just why I think that you like yeah, you definitely live here, and like this is like where you fit in, because you definitely seem to be like working that life really well. What else? I think yeah, like easygoing is kind of it, and like you don't seem very judgmental about stuff, and you seem pretty like interested in just sort of like having a good time. And I think that that's like you had said that you had said that you like if you like it, it doesn't matter what other people think about it. That's just like how like that's taste, you know. Chacun son goût, you know. So I think that's really cool. And it's also like it's funny because for a long time I thought that you didn't necessarily like. Maybe you weren't giving yourself enough credit, but actually I think you definitely give yourself enough credit. But I think that's good. Like it's like that's part of your being a badass. Like you're not like, oh, am I doing a good job? You're like, oh, I'm doing a good job, which is cool. That's also really like I think that's like a really good quality for a young woman to have, to just be like, yep, doing what I'm doing. I'm just talking about myself, is what's going on here, by the way. You know this. So I think that's all. I mean, it's not like we hang out all the time. This is the first time I've seen you in years, and like I also think you're like super not good at keeping in touch, because sometimes I'll send you a text message or an email and you don't respond. But you do show up in person, which is actually really cool, and that's also part of the sort of like easygoing thing. Like you'll be there or you won't, and that's just how it goes. And it's very like pre-mass cell phone culture. Even though I'm sure like you're not a weirdo about cell phones, I don't think you have hang-ups about that. I do. But yeah, you're definitely like really like either you show up or you don't, and you're not like sending 15 text messages to confirm, which actually also is really cool, because when people send me 15 text messages to confirm things, it makes me feel anxious. There's no anxious vibe coming off of you ever, which is really nice. And like, yeah, especially for a young woman, very refreshing, because that would seem to be the general tone of like young women out of university in this day and age, is like generalized anxiety disorder, and you don't seem to be like burdened by any of that, which is really cool. Yeah, I think that is maybe it. You look so uncomfortable right now also, which is really cool for me, because I would be so uncomfortable if I were you. I don't think there's anything like bad about this, but it's definitely like stressful, and I like that you're like not fronting about that. Like you're not fronting about the stressfulness about this. So I think it's totally nuts that you agreed to do this, because you're definitely doing it to be nice to me. and that's really sweet. You didn't have to, but I appreciate it a lot. I think
so you don't think anything mean about me now? Like,
no, that's kind of, I feel like that's kind of it. Like, I don't know, like, you do craft stuff, which I think is, like, I've always felt like that was like a really practical move on your part, because you seemed, from my perspective, it always seemed like something that you did because there was like a possibility of it being a real job, but also being something that would allow you to make art that's just art, that's not to make money. And I think that's cool. It's like, it's funny, I wouldn't describe you as a feminist, but that's also because I haven't hung out with you in a couple years, so I have no idea what like you're actually like, in terms of your politics or anything like that. But I definitely say, just from like hanging out with you a few times recently, like you seem highly like not prejudiced about stuff, which is really cool. Like in everything, and like your taste in terms of who you hang out with, in terms of like the way you think about life, like people's lifestyles. You seem very, you know, like live and let live, which is really, really rad. And like, I haven't seen your artwork recently. I think the last time I saw you make art was you were just out of high school, like maybe in your first year or two of university. So I like, but
you make my portfolio for you.
yeah, you have to send me more stuff. I'm not going to give you a critique directly. Usually people will bring their things to me if they want the critique on camera. Hint for future people who want this service. But yeah, I think that like, I think the way you're approaching art is kind of like of this two sides, where there is like a bit of like a commercial side to it, but that's coming from a place of just like real practicality of, you're like, oh, you know, I'm gonna need a job that doesn't suck at some point. But you also know that that's like, it's just as hard to get those jobs as it is to, you know, do a lot of other things that would be really nice to do in one's life. And I don't know, it seems like you're just kind of like still doing what you like anyway, and not giving too many fucks about it. So that's cool, you know? And then, like, we're all just trying to get by, right? So like, that's another thing. I don't think this is bad, but this is maybe like the worst thing I'll say, is that like, you really just seem like you're in kind of like a just getting by stage, which sometimes, like, I don't know, you don't seem to have like as much ego as I do, but definitely you do have ego. Like, that's part of the like, I'm the shit kind of attitude, like, and that's actually really cool, and you should continue to think you are the shit. I think that's important. But like, definitely, like, you're also just getting by, and you probably know that, but you're also young, and like, the economy sucks. So there's nothing wrong with that. That's like, you seem, like, from my perspective, you have an awesome life, and like, you're making the best of like whatever's coming your way. So that's cool. There's nothing wrong with just getting by, you know? Especially if you're like happy while you're getting by. I think that's cool. So don't feel bad about just getting by. I think that's that. Yeah. That was nerve-wracking. Okay.
You seem nervous at the end there.
Yeah, okay. It was the bad stuff. I get nervous at the bad stuff too.
It must be hard to do that, to like, from your perspective too. Just having somebody sit here too, and you're like, I'm gonna tell you exactly what I think, and then looking at you, and you're like, oh man, I don't want to give this person like a mental breakdown, like, you know.
You're not allowed to ask questions. I'm the only one who talks here.
Sorry.
Thank you.